It's time for
On the Victory Homefront
with Jamie. It's mid-April 1942, and something new is starting to take shape on the home front. People are being told to get ready for rationing. They're being told that they'll need to register. And even though nothing has changed yet, it's clear that it's going to. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to On the Victory Homefront. Today's episode is a little different. This is one that I'm calling On the Victory Homefront Diary. And it's something that you will see here and there because from time to time, I want to step away from just the history and share where I'm at and what I'm trying, what's working, what's not, and what I'm learning as I try to adopt more of that 1940s homefront mindset. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not trying to fully live like it's the 1940s. I'd love to, but I'm not because I still drive my car. It's a newer car. I use the internet. Obviously, I've got air conditioning. Thank goodness. I've got a dishwasher, which I'm not giving up. I mean, I'm not going to get rid of any of that. And what I'm trying to do, though, is adopt the mindset of the World War II homefront, of being resourceful and making do and mend, and becoming a little bit more self-sufficient where I can. I'm also working on building my skill set of the skills that just every American had back then. Would I love to live more like the 1940s? Of course, but I do have a family and they don't. So I bring in what I can. And actually, I will be talking more about that soon somewhere else because I am going to be a guest on the Donut Dollies podcast, and I'll be sharing what got me started with all of this and why things like victory gardens still matter. And what's interesting even more is the more I look into this period, the more I realize that this exact moment, mid-April of 1942, is where something begins to shift on the home front. So if you go back just a few weeks to March of 1942, that's when the government starts putting the rationing system into motion. It's announcing that sugar is going to be limited. It's organizing local ration boards and preparing the country for what's coming. And now here in mid-April, that preparation is becoming visible. Behind the scenes, schools are being selected as registration sites. Teachers who are already trusted in their own community are being prepared to help run the process. And ration books are being printed and will soon be distributed. And on that home front, people are starting to hear about it. They're hearing on the radio that you'll need to register. You're being told that you're going to be having to go to your local school and you're being asked to be ready to declare what you already have at home. And at this point, you might wonder, well, are people going out and trying to buy as much sugar as they can before the rationing starts? Because that's what I would do. And the answer is some probably are, because that instinct doesn't just disappear. I think it's natural human instinct to want to be prepared ahead of something. But for most families, that's not really what is defining this moment. And there's really a strong sense that this is part of the war effort. And this isn't just about you, it's about everyone. Not to mention, many of these families probably already have a loved one enlisted. They're not going to take something away from their enlisted loved one. And so people are being told by this time in history in 1942 that they'll have to declare what they already have when they register. So if you go out and stockpile, it could actually work against you. Now, of course, you could lie, but honesty was a value back then, and most people really valued that they were honest. And so there was that kind of social pressure. And you also didn't want to be the person taking more than your share. It was unpatriotic. So instead of panic buying, what you would see more of is people starting to think differently about what they already have. And rationing isn't the only thing beginning to take shape at this point in history in 1942. Across the country, factories are ramping up production for the war, and there's already talk of shortages, especially things like rubber. And people are being told to start conserving. And for the first time, you're starting to see more women stepping into the workforce. Now, it's not in full force yet, but it's enough to notice the shift because there's a growing understanding that more hands are going to be needed and that those hands aren't just going to come from the same places they always have because those men are enlisting into the war. So there's even discussion happening about women serving in uniform. And that's something that hasn't really been part of American life up to this point. But it's just about to become a reality in the coming weeks. And Eleanor Roosevelt, she herself was helping shape that conversation. Through her writing in newspaper articles and her radio appearances, she's speaking directly to Americans, especially women, about their role in the war effort. By this point in April, she's already involved in discussions about women's work in the war, and she's encouraging them to step up into new roles, including industrial work, and to see themselves as part of something bigger than their traditional roles at home. She's also pushing in her own way for broader participation, supporting opportunities for Black Americans, both men and women, to contribute to the war effort, even though the country itself isn't fully there yet. So it's not just about rationing. It's about a country starting to rethink who contributes and how. And honestly, that's where I feel I am at right now. So here's the diary part of these kinds of episodes, because even though I'm not being forced to ration anything, I'm starting to pay more attention to what I have. It's already changing how I use it, and it's changing my thought process for the future. So a big part of that for me right now has been the garden. I've recently been focused on building out what I'd call a true victory garden. It's not just something small or experimental, but something that actually contributes to what we eat. It's going to contribute to our lifestyle. And where I'm at, the growing season isn't as long as it is in some parts of the country. We're still in that early spring phase where temperatures go up and way down. So you've got to be really careful about what you plant and when. And there are some things I have been able to plant out directly into my victory garden. They're a little bit more cold tolerant crops that can handle a little bit of that unpredictability. But then there are others that really need to be started indoors if you want any kind of decent harvest. And one of the big ones is tomatoes, which are incredibly important. I'm sure you know. They're versatile, they're used in a lot of meals, and they need a head start here in my zone. So I'll be honest, I'm a little late getting those started. I just got them started 2 days ago, which is making me about 2 to 3 weeks late. But you know what? I finally got them going, and even though they're late, I will still have a better chance of when I started them now to when I would have put them in the ground. And this has been very different for me. I've had gardens before, and they've always been more of a hobby. So if something didn't work out, it wasn't a big deal. Sure, I was disappointed that I didn't make something happen and grow, but it didn't matter in our lifestyle. But this time it feels different because this garden actually matters. This is food. So all these extra steps, starting seeds indoors, managing light, timing, everything, it's been new and honestly a little nerve-wracking because now it's not just about trying something, it's about not messing it up. And I've already had some seedlings struggle a bit, especially in my lighting area, where some of them didn't get quite what they needed and they're not looking very good. But thankfully, it's those plants that I can actually plant directly into the ground this coming month. So it's not a total loss. I'm just adjusting and I'm trying again. In addition to that, we've been expanding things. I've got raspberries and blackberries planted. I planted some grapes. I planted a rhubarb root. My husband loves rhubarb. And I'm currently in the middle of trying to plant about 40 strawberry plants that I'm also behind in. We'll get there. On top of that, we just added 10 new baby chicks to our flock. So that's another step going forward to being a little bit more self-sufficient. And when I take a step back and I look at all of this, it really changes how I think, because this isn't just about growing something for fun anymore. It's about learning how to provide, how to plan ahead, and how to make the most of what you have. And I think that's what people on the home front were starting to feel in April of 1942, because nothing had been taken away yet, but the awareness was there. And that alone started to change how they approached everyday life. And that's where we're going to be heading next, because By the end of April, Americans will be lining up to register, and in early May, rationing officially begins. So in upcoming episodes, we're going to be talking about this process going up into when you would register and get your first ration book. And then I'm going to break down how those ration books and stamps actually worked, how people use them, and how they learned to live within that system and how they became successful. So mid-April of 1942, it wasn't about restrictions. It was about realizations. It was the moment when people began to understand that life is about to change and that crucial steps were going to be taking place and that their lives were going to look very different while the war was going on. So I want to thank you all for listening to this episode of On the Victory Homefront. Be sure to tune in for following weeks for the next episodes on this subject of registering to get ration books and how the ration books actually worked. And I would love it if you would help my podcast grow by sharing with your friends and family. I would appreciate it. I really appreciate all you who tune in to me every week. And until next time, my friends, remember, victory is in the everyday. I'll see you next time on the Victory Homefront.